thrown off by being wrong about the mountain goats. Um,
Jamie's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Being recorded, being mistaken about the mountain goats.
the best thing about this is that as I have the power of the edit.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
Oh, we're here, hombre.
We are here, Sam.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's really sunny here, so I'm going to sit in my spare room, talk about a movie with you for 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah, we're fucking idiots. Idiot number one, my name's Sam Russo, and with me as always is idiot number two, Jamie Carruthers of the Final Transmission podcast.
Hello.
An audio extravaganza where we watch a horror movie every week and then talk about it indoors.
Indoors. Maybe one day we'll do. We tried to record one outdoors. Remember I came to visit you in Haverhill and we sat in the garden of that pub.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah,
And we just sort of put a phone in the middle, and I listened back to it, and it was like nature.
nonsense gibberish.
I mean, it was nonsense gibberish, and it was also like nature took a shit on the recording.
It was gibberish. What were we even talking about?
don't-
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I don't think so. I think we were talking about local witch legends and lore, because obviously you and I
Fascinating stuff.
both grow up in a witch trials location. Is that what we say? That's what they call it.
Witch Trials hotspot. Yeah.
Any which way you can, as Clint Eastwood would say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Jeez. So what are we talking about today, Jamie?
Today we're talking about 1981's Possession, directed by Andrzej Żuławski,
Yep, there he is.
starring Isabella Adjani and Sam Neill and some other people who don't get names.
I think Heinz Bennett needs naming.
Sure.
He's in it.
He is in it.
What a weird proposition from the get-go. Here's Sam Neill and Isabel Adjani pairing up for a whole lot of screen time together in an 81 movie directed by a guy who doesn't do anything in English up until this point.
Mhm.
That's for no good reason. So how does this movie come to be and why are we here?
Well, this movie comes to be because it's fucking great. I think it's willed into existence.
That's not how that works.
It's-
It doesn't.
It's willed into existence by the sheer force of will of its stars and its director. And it was a video nasty, which
Sure was.
I find fucking insane.
There's no rhyme or reason to these fucking censors, is there? The ultimate,
Yeah.
the boss cops. There's just the mind cops. They know no consistency. It seems like they answer to no one. They're just like, nope, that's banned. Next.
There is some violence in this movie. There is some gore, but like in a world where we're watching, let's say, a tree rape a lady in The Evil Dead, I could
Yes.
sort of understand why some people would be like, no, this isn't appropriate for our children to watch. But like, kids aren't going to watch Possession and be like, oh, I want to pop on this interesting, basically melodrama about divorce. That seems like what I want
Yeah.
to be watching right now.
I'm 9.
Exactly.
About time. I mean, you probably did, in fairness. You're probably the sample size for all censorship.
Yeah, but I
think-
didn't murder anybody. I first saw this movie, Sam, when probably much later than most movies. I don't think I did see this when I was 9.
Okay.
I don't think it would ever have been able to resonate with me when I was 9, knowing very little about the Berlin Wall and European geopolitics, and also, I mean, I knew a little bit about divorce as the child of divorce.
You hadn't been divorced yourself yet, though, right?
No, I'm yet to be divorced.
You're a future divorcee.
Yeah.
A real important point here. You weren't in your teens going through the video nasty list and watching everything on there, because I kind of thought that would just be a totally fucking par for the course normal thing for that Jamie Carruthers to do.
I mean, it's that is something that I did,
Right.
and maybe I did watch this, but the version that eventually was released in the UK was cut to ribbons. It was basically a different movie.
Okay.
They cut it down by half.
Yeah.
So like, it's possible that I did watch this very young and didn't remember it because it was
shit.
Imagine a horror movie where the specter of divorce is the thing that drives all the horror, and then you move all the horror out of it. Like it's then just a divorce movie where
it's
people
then
are talking to each other in sort of clipped posh New Zealand accents, and like
it just becomes a melodrama at that point.
Yeah, and also the film plays pretty fast and loose with linear narrative and with giving you any real idea of character motivation. So cutting out big swathes of it means it becomes even more hard to follow.
Yeah, it's incredibly dumb to do that. I don't. So you're saying they cut an hour out of the movie, basically?
Something like that. Yeah, it was.
Well, so it becomes an hour long. What the fuck are they thinking?
They're thinking our children can't watch Possession because then maybe they will fuck octopuses or something. I don't know.
Valid concern. I definitely ran out and fucked the first octopus I could find after I watched Possession.
Yeah. So Possession is floating around in the zeitgeist at the moment because they've announced a remake with Robert Pattinson. And after our sum up, maybe I think we should talk about what that actually entails.
Sure.
We'll get into that later. Let's talk about Possession from 1981 now.
Possession.
I'll do a synopsis unless you would rather take the synopsis, Sam.
Fuck no, I wouldn't rather take the synopsis of the movie Possession. This is 100% on you.
Okay, so the movie follows Mark and Anna, a couple. Mark is a spy, I guess. Anna is a woman. They live in Berlin before the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Which is in Germany.
She decides that she doesn't want to be with him anymore, and he doesn't take that very well. Turns out she's been seeing someone else. She's had multiple extramarital affairs. They embark on a nightmare of manipulation and violence and sexual violence until the movie ends. That's the plot of the movie.
Yes, that's what happens in that movie that we watched. I thought it was going to be way sexier. There's some talk of bondage on the cover of this movie.
I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but there is literal bondage in this movie, just not the sexy kind. This movie is about, and it's very clear, but this movie is about how horrible breakups are. And I think it's quite brave of Andrzej Zawowski's portrayal of this relationship that the guy is a piece of shit.
Where's that?
Because he wrote this while he was going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for him to be like, I am the injured party in this. The man is the injured party in this. When, his wife, at least in the movie, I don't know what happened in real life, but Anna in the movie is literally having affairs with human and non-human creatures. So it'd be very easy to portray Sam Neill's character Mark as a victim here, but he doesn't do that, and I think that's really interesting.
That would just never enter the process, I don't think, because it's so important to the film that he's totally raw, naked emotionally for the whole film. So I think portraying him anyway other than absolutely exposed in every facet of his thinking and his emotional process and his existence would absolutely kill the film dead. It would become something, it would just suck all of the guts out of it. I think it's really important that Sam Neill's portrayed exactly as he is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think I would change anything about this movie. I think this movie is like a magical artifact of weird cinema, in that like it's ostensibly, it feels like a really highbrow European Eastern Bloc melodrama, but then you've injected all of this insanity and blood and screaming in subway tunnels.
It's interesting that he's a spy. I've been stuck on that. Should we have a break and then come back and spoil the absolute arse off this film?
Yeah, let's do that, because it's hard to talk around it, and I've already slurped out a few spoilers already. So
yeah,
so let's do that.
BRB.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Okay, Sam, we're back.
Oh, yeah, I was ready. I'm back.
You were ready. You were so ready. You'd already started.
Ever ready.
This podcast, Sam, is brought to you personally by
Thank you.
Red Scare Industries. They're a label based in Chicago.
Aren't they celebrating some sort of landmark anniversary this year?
Yeah, they're celebrating 20 years of being fucking legends.
20 Jahre von Red Scare. So keep an eye out on the @Red Scare socials because there's loads of shows being announced and some pretty big, pretty great ones.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on all that shit. Go to redscare.net for your fix and your fill of Red Scare Industries, hot up-and-coming bands, crusty old dusters, and everything in between. So, she fucks an octopus.
she fucks an octopus. So I also we were sort of briefly talking about him being a spy before the jump. And I also don't really understand the politics around this. Obviously, it's not an accident that he's a spy. It's not an accident that it's set basically directly on the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Obviously, that represents division of a once united entity that has been split down the middle by, massive violence. But in terms of the politics of it, I don't ever think I've really got to grips with that yet.
I think learning the politics of divided Germany with this movie as your jumping off point, or not the best starting point for all that. But I think what's really important thematically is that, you have a very physical, geographical, hard, authoritarian enforced border that's causing, one side of an entire nation to slowly rot and dissolve and fall apart and decay, and the other side to not. And then you have two people hugely divided by something much less concrete in the beginning, much less easy to pinpoint, but showing similar signs of complete collapse and decay. And it's just a very interesting parallel. Obviously a very, very deliberate one, but you're reminded of it the whole way through the movie. There's lots of shots of the wall. There's lots of shots of, decaying buildings and sort of society, lots of hinting at societal collapse and moral degradation and sort of constant slippage of the human spirit, I guess. So it underpins the whole film, which makes it vital, right?
Absolutely. And I think maybe the spy thing is that he has a double life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I read it more before I read that he was a spy. I didn't get that. I thought maybe he was a mercenary. And that made me think of him differently. That kind of painted his whole backstory as being something completely different to me. But yeah, if he's a spy, if he's Mr. Espionage, then you're right. It's double life. It's professional deception. It's a manipulative profession. It's one where you're paid to deceive, and therefore, all of the characteristics and human traits that come with deception are celebrated and rewarded. So again, another interesting piece of his puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Early doors, Sam, I want to get out that I love this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's an absolute artifact of a specific time and place in cinema where big swings like this were allowed to happen. Where someone goes...
It doesn't seem like they were, though, because it went straight to video nasty, which makes it even more hardcore. I don't think anyone was like, we want more of this. I think people were like, we don't get it. We're going to put it on a highly censored list, and no one's going to be allowed to watch it, and we're going to cut an hour out of it.
I don't think, audience-wise, that's not really what I'm talking about. I mean, presumably, Andrzej Zawofsky had to go to some people with money and say, I'm going to make this movie about divorce. It's about a woman who fucks an octopus, and the octopus becomes her husband. Also, the school teacher is the same woman as the woman. There's a child in there that is there for narrative reasons and turns up occasionally. His name is Bob. And he is basically the kid from Extro.
Yeah.
And the producer's like, fuck yeah, here's all the money that you will ever need for the octopus fuck extravaganza.
Listen, if that's how that pitch went down and this film got made, then I'm incredibly impressed. I think maybe he said, I'm making a sharp, incisive, deeply introspective geopolitical commentary on the fragility of human coupling and the divisions that arise in any relationship, that everyone can relate to this movie because of the feelings that I'm going to portray with some experimental takes on intercourse, should we say. And in order to do that, I'm going to not be able to reveal any more of the information about this film. I just need $2 million. I think maybe that pitch, and then wham, invite you to the screening. She's fucking an octopus. Yeah, I told you about that. Remember in the pitch? I told you all about that.
So you're picturing Andrzej Zwolski.
Bob kid. I told you about Bob too. I'd already told you.
You're picturing Andrzej Zwolski as like a highbrow European director, and I'm picturing him as William Castle, as like Roger Corman being like, "Come on, guys, let's get these bums in seats. We've got everything that you need here in this movie. We've got blood, we've got octopus fucking, we've got geopolitical commentary, we've got it all. This is
This I think pitching this film as an exercise in getting bums on seats is pure futility. You got your bum in the seat, but again, I think people who like fucking Mad Max or whatever probably not going to love this shit.
I mean, I like Mad Max or whatever, and
you like everything.
I do love this shit. I do like everything. I like liking things. What can I say?
I know. Weird. I hate Mad Max. I cannot watch Mad Max. I don't know why. I can't watch any of the originals. I can't watch the remakes. The remakes, I've made it about 7 minutes into each one and just turned it off immediately.
They're not remakes. They're just extended universe.
Oh, okay. Whatever the fuck they are. I don't like them. So
you don't like Mad Max, but you love Mel Gibson.
I wouldn't go as far as say I love Mel Gibson. I love Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, that's true. And you like Dragged Across Concrete.
I do like Dragged Across Concrete. I really like that movie, and that was good.
I think Dragged Across Concrete is a really great name for a New York hardcore band.
It's a fucking great name for anything tough, isn't it? It's such a good name. Yeah, and it's, wow, let me tell you. If you ever watch the movie, you'll find out why it's called that.
Does someone get dragged across concrete?
Someone gets dragged across concrete. So this movie should be called Woman Fucks Proto-Octopi.
Yeah. So let's talk about possession, the possession of the movie, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think that refers to?
Everything, really. Easy answer. At first I thought, is it men possessing women? And then I thought, is it some kind of demonic possession of some kind? Is it basically a sort of blanket or umbrella term for the madness that comes with love? The answer, not sure. What about you?
I think all of those things are right, except obviously demonic possession. It's not really demonic possession. It's more like being filled with against your will to do things, which I guess is basically demonic possession. Like I completely agree. I think at the start it's like, okay, he wants to continue possessing this woman that doesn't want to be involved with him. And then she has this octopus possession that she loves and fucks. Heinrich has like a loosey-goosey approach to possession, but he still believes that he has control over Anna when he ultimately doesn't.
He is still ultimately maddened by her, isn't he? And he does sort of seem to have some kind of drug-based possession of her.
His performance is fucking bonkers. In a movie populated almost entirely by bonkers performances.
Yeah.
The way he moves, the way he's like aggressively not cool in the sort of, hey, that's cool, but like aloof sexuality is so disconcerting all the way through. The first time that he meets Mark and he like just sort of keeps touching him in these little weird ways, and then like he's doing that little sort of weird dancing around when I guess he's meant to be drunk or high or whatever. It's like, you've never seen a drunk or high person?
9/10 of the heavy lifting is done by undoing 5 or more buttons. I think as soon as you do that on a shirt, you are sexually upsetting to me.
Yeah.
The people who can pull off undoing 5 or more buttons on their shirt and still be sexy, there's one class of people, and it's completely standalone. Matadors. That's it.
Matadors.
When was the last time you saw a matador? It's been a while.
Yeah, I think matadors are problematic, right?
Are they? Why?
Because they kill bulls, Sam.
Well, they're not problematic in circles where that's okay. It's cultural relativism, bud. Who's out there saying matadors are problematic except you fucking butthurt Lear boys going on here? I'm the vegetarian, and you're telling me matadors are problematic.
Matadors.
Final Transmission has jumped the shark, people. Final Transmission has leapt the bull.
Tell you what, one of my favorite genres of video
Yeah.
is watching matadors die at the hands or the horns of a big heaving bull-like creature, normally a bull.
Yeah.
Um,
Unbelievable. I guess the problem there is, Jamie, that even if the bull kills the matador, somebody comes in and kills the bull. Still dies.
okay, but I would say that anyone who kills a bull is problematic. They don't have to be dressed in a little funny outfit.
I would say don't hate the player, hate the game. You're focusing a lot of vitriol on the matador in a situation that's much bigger than him.
I think, much like cops, matadors.
Yeah, here it comes.
Matadors choose the life that no one's born a matador.
Might be. The next Pixar movie could be Little Matador, and it could be all about how you didn't know, but once again, Pixar shines light on cultures we don't otherwise interact with. People are born into matadorism, and they have to heed the call, Jamie. They don't have a choice.
Did you ever see the movie Clown that was produced by Eli Roth? Or,
No.
let's say, The Santa Claus, where Tim Allen kills a matador and then sort of slowly becomes a matador over the course of the movie.
Oh dear. Listen, if your classification of matador is problematic, then I think we need to reevaluate big time.
I think killing animals for sport is bad, Sam.
It's barbaric. It's not problematic. It's not like fucking. It doesn't fall into the same category as like pop punk singers singing about teenage girls or whatever.
But I think the reason it's problematic, rather than just outright wrong, is the cultural relativism that we speak of. So that's what changes something from being fucking bad and wrong and horrible to problematic, because you can argue that culturally it's considered okay. And that's why it's problematic.
So it's just like a moral judgment whitewashed with a stupid current word.
I don't think problematic is a current word, but okay.
Well, it's very much, it's used a lot, should we say.
Yeah.
I tell you what is also problematic. Sam Neill's performance in this film.
He's a violent man.
He's problematic in a way that truly takes the word back to its roots, because he's just so fucking hard to watch in this film. He is a problem for the viewer. And again, this is something I think the film does incredibly well, is that nobody is cool in this film. You're not watching anyone at any point and being like, fuck yeah. The whole time you're watching this guy, you're just like, oh God, painful.
I don't mean to be problematic, Sam.
Here it comes.
But when I'm watching Isabella Gianni in this movie, I am thinking, fuck yeah, this is cool.
She's a fantastic actor.
Yes.
She pulls off a performance in this movie that is fucking flawless. She fucking comes to work in this movie and sticks one in and breaks it off. I haven't seen, a female leading performance like this in fucking a very long time. And because it's 1981, you are looking at it as a female lead performance, and you're looking at it with more significance than you would now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily delineate between a male and a female performance in a movie like this if it was released today. I think she is, in this film, head and shoulders above everyone else. I think Sam Neill is fantastic, don't get me wrong.
He is hard to
he's
watch,
so
though.
fucking... And rightly so. He's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We know that Sam Neill has it in his fucking toolbox to be real smooth. We know he has it in his toolbox to be charismatic. He's got a huge range. Even at this early stage in his career, he's doing a lot with a fairly limited presence. Do you know what I mean? At this point in his career, he's not as big or interesting as he becomes.
He's not Dr.
And I
Alan
will
Grant.
admit, no, several times while watching this movie, I wanted to escape. And I said to Claire, I wish we were watching Jurassic Park. But point being, he is rough around the edges here and there in his performance, in my opinion. But she doesn't put a fucking foot wrong. It's an astonishing show from her.
Yeah. Like, I think a movie that has quite a lot in common with this is Lars von Trier's Antichrist.
Right.
Are you familiar with Antichrist? Have you watched Antichrist?
I'm familiar with The Antichrist. But not the film.
Okay, well, I'm probably going to spoil Antichrist a little bit here, but it doesn't matter because you can't really spoil that film.
Is it Willem Dafoe?
It is Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, who I think could comfortably star in this movie, Possession, together. Antichrist is about the dissolution of a relationship after the death of a young child, which is one of the greatest.
Which you wish happened in this film.
Well, which is one of the greatest opening scenes of a movie ever. You see Willem Dafoe's erect shaft entering Charlotte Gainsbourg as a child falls out the window and dies. It's fucking incredible. I love it.
And he's got a tremendous hog on him, right?
Yeah, he's got a absolute fire extinguisher.
All we can say about Willem Dafoe's dick is that it looks exactly the way you think it's gonna. It's Willem Dafoe's dick. You could give me a lineup of dicks I'd never seen in my entire life, and I'd be like, that one, that's Willem Dafoe's dick. Number 5, step forward, please.
Yeah, the one that's grinning at you.
The one that looks like a fucking Klingon 6-pack. That's Willem Dafoe's dick.
Yeah. And obviously that film, Antichrist, also uses horror tropes to tell a story about the breakdown of a relationship. I think that Antichrist is a way more misogynistic film than Possession. I think Possession does a really good job, like I mentioned earlier, of like towing the line between who's good and right in a relationship and what that means and how you can claim the sort of the moral high ground occasionally, but it's all about picking moments of moral high ground, but really you're both pieces of shit, which is the opposite of what happens in Antichrist. But I love Antichrist, and I would recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it. And if anyone wants to see Willem Dafoe's dick get bashed in by a 2x4, like this is the perfect movie for you.
Yeah, it's weird that a movie that opens with a giant throbbing dick is in any way misogynistic.
Yeah, I mean the crux of that movie is that Charlotte Gainsbourg's character realizes that women are the root of all evil in the world.
About time.
And tries to destroy the notion of womanhood by slicing off her clitoris with a big pair of rusty scissors.
Yeah, it's a bold move.
It is a bold move.
Another
bit of media that I think this has something in common with, which, I mean, I can hear 1,000 imaginary listeners rolling their eyes at me because
you can hear them rolling their eyes.
Yeah,
People, you need to hydrate, drink some water. That's not healthy.
It's like, oh, the guy who likes the mountain goats finds some mountain goat stuff in this movie, but the alpha couple stuff and their horrible toxic relationship that leads to both of them ultimately dying in a burning house at the end of their sort of narrative through a series of songs. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if John Darnielle had seen Possession anyway, because he's a
weirdo.
He's a fucking nerd like all of us.
He's one of us. Yeah,
he is one of us, and we know that he loves old European horror movies, but also like the way that relationship and think about No Children, which is obviously the breakout hit of almost all Mountain Goat songs, but specifically of the alpha couple cycle. And like how
I'd know nothing about this, dude. I had no idea that movie had a story. What's the album had a story? No idea.
Yeah, so it's all about this toxic couple who are stuck together regardless of how much they hate each other and how toxic and destructive their love is, and then it ultimately ends with them dying in the song Alpha Rat's Nest. I think that's really interesting. I think it's tonally and even like viscerally it's quite similar. Like if you think about No Children and like the lyrics, like rather than breaking up, they'd just both rather literally die, and then they do. Like I think Sam Neill's performance that is nearest to this is probably In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, pretty close. He's a lot older in that. I cannot get over how young he is in this. I mean, he's not young, he's in his 30s, but he looks so different to what we're used to as a guy who really came into his stride in Hollywood and became a true living room household name in his fucking late middle age.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting seeing him just all teeth and scary face, and he looks like one of the fucking popcorn spawn from Killer Clowns. The guy is fucking unhinged.
Well, yeah, that's why I think Willem Dafoe would kill in that role, because like it's a similar thing. Obviously, Willem Dafoe didn't grow out of that into sort of quite a nice avuncular presence like Sam Neill did. But yeah, imagine the Sam Neill career that we could have got if he carried on making movies like this. If he took the Willem Dafoe route and occasionally popped up in like big Hollywood movies, but was like mostly doing fucking unhinged, insane performances like this all the time.
I think he quite rightly didn't do that, because what he's been able to do is this and Mouth of Madness and all these other fucked up movies and still be super fucking rich and very cool.
He's in some non-mainstream movies, or he's in some like fairly weird movies, or even like mainstream weird movies like Event Horizon. But he never really channels this flavor of manic insanity in any of his other roles.
We've established that he's very good in this.
Yes.
And he's very young in this. Why is he so hard to fucking watch? What is it about him that's so upsetting and unnerving? There's a pretty quintessential moment in the film that I feel like most people will look at as being, pretty nuts and bolts, bread and butter, nothing to write home about. But when he's in the physical throes of the breakup, it's like the "you've been dumped" scene when he's grown a beard and he's writhing around in bed.
Yeah, literal withdrawal.
Chemical withdrawal from the woman he loves. I think that is so fucking relatable. It almost slaps the movie back on the tracks a little bit for a viewer who's maybe finding it to be a little bit rough in spots, because it's just a brutal portrayal of something that everyone hopefully can relate to. And he does that quite a few times. He has those like snap back to reality moments where we move a little bit away from fucking almost like post-surreal melodrama back to like, remember, this is about something human. And then you're like, okay, I'm back. And then wham, it sort of keeps you rocking and reeling. It's a real 1-2 punch combo of that sort of emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
But the whole time he is, I think, being very clever and very careful to make sure that you're never comfortable at all with anything he's doing.
I think the movie does that as well. Like the cinematography by Bruno Neuton, the camera is constantly moving very, very slowly. It's always slightly shifting on its axis, or it's drawing very slowly out to sort of hammer in the loneliness or the isolation of a scene. But like it's constantly shifting on its axis, so you can never really find your footing. And like the performances are reinforcing that. It's an absolute exercise in like not being able to really get a grip on where you are. I think he does that the best. His performance, you want to relate and you do relate, and then all the horrible things happen and you're like, okay, I don't relate, or I'd like to not relate.
That's more like it. Yeah. I feel like it's way too close to a lot of things that are just basically human nature.
Yeah.
That you kind of have to relate uncomfortably to everything he's doing and saying. And I totally agree about all the cinematography is amazing in this film, but it does something really clever, I think, where you don't feel nauseated. This isn't that like leering, oh no, tilting angles and like losing your shit. It's so subtle that you don't really realize you've stopped moving until the credits. And there's also something really clever where he pulls out, like you said, to show loneliness, but he'll pull out and just show you how small something is.
Yeah.
Instead of drawing in to make you feel really close and claustrophobic, which he does too, but he'll pull out in the kitchen. You'll be like, it's fucking tiny. I thought it was going to be big and there'd be a way out, but there isn't. Yeah. Like, it's so painfully cloistered. Yeah, some beautiful shots.
Liken watching this movie to like, do you know when you're on like a travelator or an escalator and you're standing still, or a travelator is probably a better one, and you're walking on the travelator and you feel like you're walking at a normal pace, and then you get to the end of the travelator and suddenly the pace that you're walking hits the static ground. Like that's how you feel when you hit the credits. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that I was moving on top of me actually moving, and now I've come to a lurching stop. Fucking great.
Yeah, the movie's full of those, like when you're pulling out of a car parking space and the person next to you is backing in and you're like, oh fuck, and then you turn around the other side and the person's pulling out. Like it's like that the whole time.
Or like you're looking out a train window and the train next to you is moving, but the engine is on, so you feel like you're moving.
Yeah. That's this film, but with the absolute fucking limits of human love, withdrawn depravity slathered all over it.
Yeah, I also think this film is really funny. I think that there are the line at the beginning, maybe all couples go through this, is obviously meant to be funny. And you're meant to think back on that at the end, like, maybe all couples do go through this. Maybe they all fuck an octopus and then die in a hallway, shot to death by their spy mates.
I mean, they do. That's what I think is clever about this movie. Everyone goes through that. If you've lived life, that happens to you at some point.
There's another scene where she's like, I'm really sleepy. And then it just like smash cuts to him tucking her in bed, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. It's definitely an acquired taste in the humor department. I wouldn't file it under comedy, looking at it that way, but yeah, it's not taking itself too seriously. There has to be humor in there to make it sufferable.
And there's so much insanely amazing dialogue. I think if I had seen this when I was like 14, and maybe I did, but I don't remember, and that dialogue was intact, I would absolutely have written all of that shit on my diaries.
You'd be quoting it till the cows come home.
There's nothing to fear except God. God is a disease.
Yeah.
Like, the I'm at war against women, they're dangerous speech is so... I think it's hilarious. And, like, obviously,
it's superb, yeah.
He's, like, ladling on, like, this horrible misogyny. And it's just being backed up by the woman who is also Anna that we've not talked about yet. The teacher. And she's, like, the only thing that women have in common is menstruation. Which, again, is an amazing line. All the sort of goodness is a reflection on evil stuff that Anna talks about later. I met a man who loved everything and he died in a pool of shit.
Died in a flood of shit.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
Which I think is hands down the best line of the movie. I was saying that for fucking at least 2 days afterwards. And it's so well delivered. Superb.
It's weird because, like, if you think about a movie like Rosemary's Baby, which has a lot of sort of similar vibes to this. It's a relationship drama dressed as a horror movie by a Polish director, making an early foray into English language movies with quite high production value, but still with a very European sensibility, like we have here. You don't walk away from Rosemary's Baby with a list of quotes in your notebook.
No.
Like, maybe you carry a few of those with you, but I can't recall any off the top of my head. And I love Rosemary's Baby. But I wrote so many things down, so many of those little lines down, because they're so good. And like I say, if I was 15, they'd be on the cover of my exercise books in school. I mean,
you'd be expelled immediately.
They'd be on my live journal, or I'd be putting them on my Tumblr, or whatever the modern equivalent of that is for kids today.
If I lay at your feet and yelp like a dog, would you still step over me? Yes. The dialogue in this movie is so important.
But see how that's funny though. That
it is really funny.
You can't write that and be
it's
like,
just
this
so
is
darkly, painfully funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hilarious to me. I laughed. Again, it's not funny, but I can't remember the exact line. But she's introducing, I think it's Heinrich or somebody, to the tentacle mass. And she says, he made love to me all night. He's exhausted. It's like this writhing puddle of blood. Just, that's really funny. I think it's a surrealist juxtaposition type humor that's only funny in the moment.
Yeah.
Like it's because it's brewed out of some weird discomfort and pain. But the writing of the movie, for me, as somebody who loves words and scripts and the delivery and everything to do with how the characters express themselves, I think the writing in this movie is so unbearably good.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy to get lost in the visuals and what happens and the weirdness and the real sort of statement piece that is the experience of the movie, everything rolled into one. But when you isolate the dialogue specifically, it's fucking phenomenal. I'm still recovering. I think it's such a hard movie to watch.
But like writing that in your second language and it being...
Oh, yeah.
I think there are some moments where it's like, okay, I recognize that this is being written in someone's second language. Like, I can't remember what, but there's a few lines where it's like, that's not really what someone would say or how they would articulate that thought. They use a word like chair instead of seat or something like that. I don't know. But for the most part, it's like when you read The Master and Margarita or like Tolstoy or any of those things. And it's like...
It has that fun, stilted, strange... rough translation feel to it. I think it's pretty smooth in this, and I think it just adds to the surrealism when it comes out strangely. Like you say, the chair thing's a good one. Like, people don't really say, I'll throw myself out the window. They say, I'll jump out the window or whatever. But because of the melodrama, it all kind of works. You sort of accept it as being totally normal. I'm sort of finding it hard to explain how important all those dialogue choices are, because I feel like it's such a clinically composed script with so much heart and feeling and soul in it. It's a rare combination in that respect, I think. It's fucking brutal.
I want to go back to the visuals just for a minute. There are a couple of insane choices that I wanted to sort of have a chat with you about and maybe get your two penneth on. There's the extreme rocking chair shot, which I can only describe it as extreme rocking chair. Nobody has ever rocked on a rocking chair like that after the age of 8.
There's no other description for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the scene when they're in like the cafe or whatever, which I think is insane and so distracting because there are mirrors all the way around them and you never see the camera or anything like that. And we didn't live in a world where you can digitally remove cameramen from mirror shots and stuff. So I found that so distracting because instead of being enveloped in the drama that's happening in front of us, I mean, the drama sucks you back in when he starts throwing chairs around and beating up the waitstaff. But like I'm looking at it, I'm like, how did they do this? The camera is constantly moving and there's mirrors everywhere. And it's like, how do you do this? In a movie where everything is so deliberate, I can only imagine that is on purpose somehow. I don't know why. It's a cool shot taken as it's by itself, but I find it so distracting.
I'd go as far as say, if you're gonna keep this movie as honed and as tight as it is, you can't fucking show the camera. So you don't have a choice. You have to get it right. And I bet he just fucking bent space and time to make it work. The rocking chair scene is really interesting to me because whenever I watch something like that, I think that's not just someone saying, do it weird. Do it as weird as you can. Yeah. I bet he's come into that and been like, I have this childhood memory of being really upset and taking it out by rocking backwards and forwards in a rocking chair like a maniac because I didn't know how to express myself. Can you articulate that for me, Sam Neill? You know, something like that. It comes from some semi-buried, semi-conscious childhood memory or something he saw a fucking, whack-a-loon relative do or something like that. And that's what makes the movie feel so intimate, is that it doesn't really have any moments where you think, that's just throwaway surrealism. That's fucking Hitchhiker's Guide bullshit. Yeah. This is real tortured soul, I
mean, there is a shot where Heinrich and Mark are standing next to each other and it looks like they're in a camera obscura type situation, which I do think...
I know what you mean, yeah.
Is surreal for surreal's sake.
Right.
I mean, we're projecting the difference between these two men. One of them is, one of them has all the power in that moment, so he's big and strong, and Sam Neill is little and weedy in that moment because he is subservient to the power that Heinrich has. As the person that Anna chose in that moment, obviously we learn later that there is a third party involved.
But that's even more plays into your point, doesn't it? That's all Heinrich's perception of himself.
Yeah.
His perception of himself as the victor, as the alpha.
Yeah.
As the one that was chosen, which is really interesting to watch that slowly unravel and to be articulated through such beautiful camera work.
I struggle to find anything wrong with this movie. Can we before
I can help.
I know, I want you to give me your negative spiel at some point very soon.
It's not that there's anything wrong with it. I'll get ahead of that.
Yeah. But before we do that, I would like to talk maybe a little bit in depth about Isabella Gianni's performance.
Yeah,
I wrote down Kate Bush as Lady Macbeth. Like,
yeah, nailed it. That's fucking. You just got yourself a job at ebert.com. You just killed it.
Like, I don't know how she invents these new emotions that somehow manage to resonate with me.
She's plunging into new depths on the emotional spectrum.
I don't know how you could watch someone scream for 98 seconds and then have a weird full body abortion in a tunnel and be like, this is moving and powerful rather than, hey, cool slime. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
She spoke to you on a whole different level, Jamie. You went beyond, hey, cool slime.
Yeah. That's my default setting normally. But
yeah, I think I've maybe said, that's cool slime, even in the moment. I mean, that scene is so unbearably powerful. Like, just one person on screen not delivering any lines for 98 seconds, being that arresting, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And like, she is, I mean, we've said unhinged about Sam Neill. She is also incredibly unhinged. The performance is transcends anything that I've really seen before, and is completely bonkers, but in a way that is so grounded. It's similar to Sam Neill, I think. Like you understand the starting point for every insane thing that she does or says, or every insane look. I mean, I don't quite understand why she cuts her neck with an electric carving knife. I probably wouldn't do that, but
it's funny because I found that really relatable.
like it's like your cop gun thing, right? It's almost like I'm holding an electric carving knife, and the intrusive thought
my neck.
is yeah, what if I put this against my neck?
Not what if, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the what if doesn't even come into it. No, I think, yeah, you're hitting on a really interesting point there, because she internalizes all that violence that comes out of the breakup, I think. And when she takes it out on herself, it's explosive, and you're right, it's jarring and it's hard to understand. But I think there's so much aggression comes out of Sam Neill as the man in this scenario. There's so much violence just emanates from everything that he says, does, and touches for a big chunk of the movie. When you juxtapose against her, the way that she is just going completely out of her mind with all this repressed emotion and lust and shame and anger, and trying to be ending up like neglecting her kid, but feeling like she has to be a mom. All this amazing character motivation, largely unarticulated, and then just fucking trying to slash her own head off with a carving knife makes perfect sense to me. She goes dark.
She does go dark. I mean, she is the catalyst for all of the horror in this movie. She does almost all of the murders, apart from Heinrich and maybe their little mate.
Yeah, Margie, what a tragic character.
Yeah.
Old fucking hop along Margie. What does she want? That's my question for you.
I don't understand their relationship at all. It's one of the few things in the movie that I can't grasp at all. I think
I love it. It has that dream-like sleaziness. You know, when you dream about cheating on your girlfriend, you wake up so depressed and ashamed and bummed and horny, and then you break it all down in your head, and it suddenly just makes perfect sense. Like she's got a leg in a cast. She's struggling. She's friends with both of them. She acts as a mother for his son.
Yeah.
He just fucking chucks her the whole movie. And then she dies. So tragic.
Yeah, and she's killed off screen?
Yeah, she's just dead.
She's just dead.
She's so sad, but so important. Like, it's so important in a movie about love and breakups and lust and divorce and agony that you have that character and you have all those feelings articulated in human form. She's vital.
Yeah, I guess like there is always collateral damage in a breakup, particularly a difficult breakup, which I would categorize the breakup in this movie as a difficult breakup.
Yeah, imagine being the fucking divorce lawyer in this one. Like, oh boy,
who gets possession of the possession? Who gets custody of the tentacle monster?
I tell you who needs a stable home is Bob.
Yeah,
what a sad little fella.
Well, he drowns at the end.
The saddest. When you think, wow, this movie is basically leaving no stone unturned when it comes to the trauma of divorce, and you start thinking to yourself, man, Bob is going to be fucked by all this, so fucked. And then they show you how fucked he is. Like, they really hammer home the divorce trauma of the child at the end of this movie as the final hurrah. You know, like, you thought we weren't going to show it. You thought it was going to be a happy ending for Bob who gets to escape the madness. No, he's fucked for life.
He dies in a nuclear.
Do you think he dies? Is that really your take?
Well, regardless of whether he drowns in the bath, which I think he does. Like,
wow.
The end of this movie is nuclear apocalypse, right? Bombs fall.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
So everybody dies.
Everyone dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a different read, but now you're saying that, it makes it worse somehow. Just when I didn't think it could get any worse. You think he goes and drowns himself?
Yeah. I think that he is so scared of his dad, quote unquote, or the terrifying entity behind the door. Don't open, that he runs and drowns himself in the bath.
Fuck off. I had it in my head that his only like safe, happy place was being in the bath. And so his trauma response is to run there every time something goes horrible. And that bath is rank because he's in there all the time and he's always scared. I had "don't open" as being a bit of a double meaning. Like, obviously, don't open the door, but he's screaming at himself like, "Don't ever open yourself up, or you're going to end up like your parents. So just run and be in the bath."
I mean, yeah, maybe.
Fucking drowning himself is next level, Jamie.
Yeah. One thing that I don't understand about this movie is that why all the kids in this West Berlin school are Cockney.
Or English.
They're not even English, they're Cockney. They're all the kid from Extra. They're all little Harry or whatever the fuck his name
Hey,
was.
nobody is the kid from Extra except that kid. He is a fucking anomaly. He's a fucking 9-year-old, 56-year-old Cockney window cleaner. He's a bizarro.
Yeah, he's a reincarnation of a chimney sweep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we might tell you what, we might have a slightly different view on this then. What do you make of his teacher?
So,
what, like movie wise, like we know that she's hot, blah blah blah. Rise above, Jamie? What's her? Who is she in this?
I think she doesn't really look like Anna. I think we're seeing a projection of what Mark sees, and he is looking for a woman that embodies the same space as his estranged wife, but is much more subservient, which is what we get from her. The idea that she's like, yeah, I've seen your wife. And I mean, she doesn't say, yes, I've seen your wife, and she doesn't look anything like me. But like, that is implied.
She basically does, yeah.
So there's that. I mean, we also get another sort of similar thing to that at the end when, after Margie's dead, the woman that helps tentacle Mark out of the skylight is designed to look very much like Margie. It's not the same actress.
Yeah.
But she's in the same outfit. One of her legs has a sock pulled up and the other one doesn't. I think we're meant to be playing with perception here and the idea that someone somewhere, not us, enlightened modern gentlemen, but someone somewhere thinks that there are like genres of women and they fall into different categories.
Right.
Yeah, the idea that like Helen just sort of comes in and immediately starts being a mum to Bob is obviously on purpose. The idea that like Mark goes on this insane misogynistic rant about how women are dangerous and that they shouldn't be allowed. And she's like, yes.
Stop, they shouldn't be allowed.
and she's like, yes, of course, I agree with you. Like, she's so subservient to him that she'll sell out her entire gender. And then, like, conversely, Anna is growing a new version of Mark who only wants to fuck and be next to her and be completely dependent on her.
Yeah.
To exist. So, like, it's fucked. Everything is fucked, Sam.
Yeah. But the problem with it all being so fucked is that it's all so true. That's the problem with this film. It's too painful to watch because she's growing her husband child that she just wants to fuck all the time. And he's running away from his relationship and he's running away from himself at the end of the day. And he's leaping straight into it with the nearest facsimile that he can project everything he wants his current wife to be. It's too real, Jamie. It's not fair.
Yeah. Okay, so give me
that's my problem with the movie is that
it's too real.
It's too good. It does its job too well, and by doing so, it's far too upsetting. It's way too painful. I will never watch this film again as long as I live, and I'll probably try quite hard to forget I watched it the first time. That's how good it is.
I can't wait to, in 2 years' time, be like, oh, we're going to watch Possession for the next week's episode.
No, we're fucking not.
And you'll be like,
I'll
cool.
watch the remake because it'll be a farce. Come on, the remake will be fucking ass pissed.
But you'll have managed to effectively block it out that you've watched it, and I'll get to re-traumatize you all over again.
I'm not going to say anything about the remake of this movie except this. How dare you? The fucking nerve to remake this. Are you out of your fucking screw? What are you doing?
Yeah, like a movie as perfect as this. Like, there are problems with it. It's a challenging watch. But
yeah,
the idea that you think that you could just do this again, just watch this. What you should do...
Why would you...
We talked about this in Killer Clowns. What you should do, instead of remaking it, is clean it up, release it on Blu-ray, send it back out to cinemas, with Robert Pattinson doing an introduction at the beginning saying, this is a really good movie that I love and I want you to see it, and I want you to see it in its truest form. So use
so much so that I would even consider being part of the remake, but I'm not so disrespectful or egotistical that I would even go near it because it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, say that, Robert.
That's what if I was a celebrity and I had any amount of power, I would if any time anyone asked me to remake something, I would buy the rights to it.
Yeah.
And then release it in cinemas for, I don't know, a day if that's all it would ever get, and be like, here is me. I'm a very famous actor / director / exhibitionist, and I like this movie, and they want to remake it, but look at it. Isn't it fucking great? If I was Taylor Swift, imagine like the power that Taylor Swift has.
Yeah.
Where she can wear a necklace to an awards show and people are like desperately trying to understand what that means. If Taylor Swift just came out and said, hey guys, I really like this movie Possession, you all should watch it. I mean, a lot of people would...
It would be on the fucking national curriculum in a month.
Exactly. Like, imagine that level of power.
No, it's too fucked. So yeah, if remaking Killer Clowns comes from a place of fun and excitement and joie de vivre and just wanting to extend the universe a little bit and expand what we get from the characters and all the fun shit that never really gets to be resolved or is maybe hampered by budget, I understand that completely. The idea that you would look at this movie and be like, it's pretty good, but let's do it again, makes you a fucking dick.
Yeah, well, I think like this movie does everything that it wants to do. There is nothing unsaid in this movie. There's no new emotion that you can derive that hasn't been found in the making of this movie. There's nothing you can say or do or think about divorce and the horror of divorce that hasn't been thought about in the making of this movie. So like, I don't understand why you would do it.
I think the answer is horribly blatant. It's a cynical cash grab. The idea is they're going to remake it in now and they're going to find some modern parallel and some, something for modern audiences to relate to, because fucking hell, imagine if people now started watching old movies and relating to them in some way because they have some knowledge of history or the human experience. It has to be about now and the internet or I don't get it. It's going to be trash, dude. There's going to be nothing about dogs dying under porches and revealing the true nature of reality in the moment of death. There's going to be nothing of the soul or guts of this movie. It's just going to be, oh my God, you see that weird Robin Pattinson movie where like she fucks an octopus or whatever? Like, it's just going to be bad.
I don't understand. You either do it different and that's bad, or you do it the same and that's bad. Like it's a lose-lose scenario for everyone involved. I think
don't open.
Yeah, I think you find an interesting director. I think there's already a director attached. I don't remember who it is. And you find an interesting writer and you find an interesting star, Robert Pattinson, and then you write something else. That's how you sit down and you watch Possession together and you're like, okay, how do we capture the feeling of this, the emotion of this, the horror of this dissolution of a relationship? How do we recapture that and tell a new story? Like,
make your own divorce movie, you fucking parasites.
Will you give it up, man? Nobody's out there. We're alone. Oh no, there's somebody out there. I'm picking up all this crosstalk.
Okay, Sam, what's your sum up and your score of Possession from 1981, directed by Andrzej Zawofsky?
I don't know if I can. I think it's so wonderful that this film exists. I think it's such a vital piece of filmmaking. I think it should be required viewing for anyone, maybe even like going into their first relationship. You should watch this to get ahead of the curve, because this is what you got ahead of you.
Well, especially like, you know your first breakup, your first real breakup that hits you hard.
Do you know what's really funny? One of my first real horrible hard breakups was with a long-term partner whose name was Sam Neill.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
His name is Sam Neill. She's still alive, for the record. Oh. Sorry. So remembering that breakup, please carry on.
The way this movie depicts a breakup, it feels like that first breakup. Like no breakup is as painful as your first like real painful breakup.
I don't know. We're talking from late 30s perspective of hopefully never having to go through another horrible, painful breakup. But I bet the midlife divorce is fucking crushing, dude.
Yeah, but it's crushing in a way where you're sentient and you understand what's happening. But when you're 15 and the girl that you've been going out with for a year is just like, do you know what? And it blindsides you. Like the insane emotional roller coaster that you go through because you don't have the equipment to understand it.
That's the key, yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie would kill me if I saw it when I was going through that breakup. And me and you, when we have our inevitable divorces in 5 years or whatever, we'll come back.
5 years, generous.
We'll come back together and we'll watch this then.
No,
and then, you know, we'll shoot ourselves at the end. We'll cut our heads off with electric carving knives. A bath. Carving knives.
Yeah. I think it's hard because I haven't experienced the full gamut of human emotion when it comes to uncoupling. I just know what I've been through. And when I watch this movie, it helps me relate way more to different types of breakup and different types of agony. And that's why it's such an important piece of art. I don't think it's fair to just say this is a film, really. I think the type of breakup that you see and you encounter in your life, even the ones you experience tangentially or through, you know, as friends, family, whatever, you experience them in real life and they're really painful and you learn from them. When you watch a movie like this that's set somewhere different, that is portrayed in a way that feels otherworldly, you get to experience all that in a completely different sphere, and emotionally it does very different things to you, and it makes you think in ways that you hadn't so far about how all that shit works. So I think it's super important as an artifact, like you said, and as a piece of filmmaking history. It's fucking not fun. It's not entertaining, really. I mean, we're weird, so we find it entertaining, but I could never in a million years recommend this to anybody. I would never be like, oh, you're fucking struggling for a movie on a Saturday night? Slap on Possession and reevaluate your entire worldview when it comes to loving relationships. It's too hardcore.
This is like, it's Tuesday night, it's November. Like
I watched this hammered, by the way.
Yeah.
So you know.
It's outside, it's bleak, the rain is like smashing against the window. Like let's say you feel like you're already in a position where you're in the Eastern Bloc somewhere. The outside world is grey. Rain and grey cloud is just hammering against the window. It's Tuesday night. That is when you watch Possession. Maybe not.
If you're into total immersion, then yeah, but I don't think I would have managed in that situation. I think I had to watch it on a summer night after 7 Coronas, or I would have been turning it off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I needed summer night to get me through it.
I told you were like, hey man, I've just drank a lot of beers and watched Bill and Ted, and now I'm going to watch Possession. And I was like, that is not the vibe. That is not where you need to be right now.
Yeah, but you lie to me, dude, and you play shit down and you big shit up. I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to movies, ever. So I have to make my own mind up. Sometimes you're like, watch this, it's really funny. And then it's about as funny as being kicked in the bollocks 50 times. Like, I'm not following your instructions anymore, Jamie. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, maybe I watched it in a strange place, but I watched it in a very emotionally raw place as well.
Yeah.
And it did its job on me. I think this is a prescription pill that you take once and it fucking stays in your system for the rest of your life. I've got an enormous amount of respect for the filmmaking, the vision, the originality, the articulation of suffering, the loneliness, the agony, the separation. All of that is painted in such a way that is just too fucking real. You feel like you're being eaten alive when you watch this film. It's one of the hardest watches I've ever experienced. It makes me go back to Martyrs and just be like, not that good a film, really. Like, this is true cinema, which we don't really do on the Final Transmission podcast. We do Hatchet and Killer Clowns. So, you know, to watch this through a horror lens, especially, yeah, it's one of the most horrific evenings of my entire life. I didn't sleep well after this. You'd be amazed to learn.
Were you looking at Claire like...
I always look at Claire like that. I'm a realist when it comes to love, Jamie. I know how bad it can get. I know how dark it can go. And I live in that place. So it drags up a lot of feelings that a lot of people will find really hard to deal with. And the central problem, I think, with this being viewed on a mass scale is a lot of people will just watch this and be like, what a pretentious load of bollocks. When two people love each other, they just crack on. Do you know what I mean? There is a reductive viewpoint on this movie where you could say, get over it, you twat. Just fucking go out for dinner and have a nice time. Stop thinking so deeply about it. You bang, you hang out, and then you die. And that's really all love is. And that is what this movie rips you out of. If you were even flirting with the idea that love is simple, if you were even dancing near the idea that you could have an uncomplicated existence in a couple situation, in a relationship, this movie is the loud, obvious, and painful thunderclap that brings you back to reality through myriad artistic methods that you just have to take your hat off to. It's basically a fucking beautiful, beautiful piece of art, and I hate it.
I think, like, if you're a person, which I know that you're not, but if you're one of these people that thinks, like, oh, love is...
I'm not a person.
Well, you're the spawn of an octopus, I think, right?
Fuck. Yeah, probably.
If you're one of those people that thinks that, like, oh, just crack on, this is a load of pretentious bollocks, I wonder if then, like, 5 years later, when you go through that horrible breakup, you're thinking back to this, like, fuck.
I think maybe you've steeled yourself in that walk of life and you don't go to these depths necessarily. You experience a touch of that agony, but because you're not attuned to it and you're not aware really of just how awful this really is on a fucking cosmic level, on an atomic level, you get over it and you crack on. And we are the cursed because we're the fucking idiots who decide to read into it and decide to live our lives plumbing the depths of human emotion.
It's like
finding out how bad it can get.
The few friends that I have that have no mental illnesses at all.
Few. Wow, you're doing great, bud.
Can you imagine what it's like to live life without any anxiety or mental illness? Like it's bonkers. Just to be like,
it must be like being born every day. It must be so lovely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just waking up being like, another day full of possibilities and excitement,
like
and contentment. Whoa!
Imagine living in a world where you wake up one day and a bad thing happens to you at 8:30 in the morning, and you don't think, okay, I guess I'm going to kill myself today. Like, what a fucking dream!
I think it's so funny. It's so far from me that it's comedy at this point to wake up and be like, another day in the world. Let's go. It's fucking mental. Yeah. Anyway, point being, films like this need to exist, and I think that we owe an enormous debt of gratitude to people who make this kind of art because it puts onto film such a quintessential part of human existence for a lot of people. So yeah, if I fucking hate it, I really hate it. And I went through a little period of hating you for making me watch this film afterwards. I said to Claire, I need to not talk to Jamie for the next 12 hours or so because I'll say something I'll regret. But it's an experience you walk away from with so much gratitude and such a sharpened, honed
You're welcome.
sense of how important these things are in life. Yeah, absolutely. It's a real polish of the lens. It wipes away a lot of shit. It's a clever fucking film, and it's got bags and bags of rotten heart. What about you, Jamie?
Well, what's your score, Sam?
Oh, fucking hell.
Do you want to do two scores? Do you want to do a full marks for the film being the film, and then an actual score for how you feel about the film? Or let's just assume it's full marks for the film because we both think it's basically perfect for what it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's 100 Triceratops out of 100 for the artistry and the actual film itself.
Why Triceratops?
In terms of how Jurassic Park.
Oh, I see.
The way I feel about it, I can't rate it. It would sound like I was slagging it off to give it a low rating, and that's not fair. It's one of those films that is horrible.
Cool.
Perfection is horrible, is my takeaway here. Something that's too good is hard to rate. So I'm just going to give it 100. And I'm not going to say what out of.
Yeah, fair enough.
That feels like a possession move. I know, I'm going to give it aubergine emoji. That's my rating.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I completely agree with you, apart from I don't hate that it makes me feel like this.
Yeah.
I think I already feel like this.
Yeah.
I'm already teetering on the brink of complete emotional collapse at every second of every day anyway. So
But what a beautiful service to you as a human, though, to give you that validating experience of a movie that perfectly articulates your exact thoughts, feelings, and opinions about a really big and important part of life.
I think it's a perfect movie. It's an absolute roller coaster. A movie about, Soviet bloc Berlin, where a woman spends a big chunk of the movie screaming in a tunnel and fucking an octopus. Why is this so emotionally resonant? Like it's incredible. Like if you boil this down to the synopsis that we talked about at the beginning, or the spoilery synopsis that we haven't sort of dug into, like the idea that this film affects you on an emotional level. Very few horror movies have managed to do that for me.
Well, there's a huge argument to say it's not a horror, isn't there? We're doing it on a horror podcast, so it becomes horror, but it's really thriller with some gore.
I mean, there are people also that believe that the octopus doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, you can theorize. That's probably the boringest thing to talk about in this movie is what is the octopus? Like, it's immaterial to the fucking the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I think the performances in this are pitched in a way that, in the hands of a different director, in the hands of a different cinematographer, in the hands of a different writer, would be insane and impossible to comprehend and impossible to experience in a way that makes sense or makes you feel. Think about some of those Nicolas Cage performances where we know that Nicolas Cage is a good actor, and we know that Nicolas Cage, his method is very thought through. He doesn't do these batshit things for no reason. He has thought.
Yeah, he's in total control.
Yeah, he's thought this through, and he's like, this is what I think the character, or the emotion that the character is going through. This is how we want to present that. But like, he works often with directors that don't have that same sensibility, and therefore Nicolas Cage meltdowns come out looking like Nicolas Cage meltdowns that have been edited together in a YouTube video. Like,
sure, even
in like films that he's in that are good, or films that he's in with good directors, like say Matchstick Man that's directed by Ridley Scott. The meltdown that he has in that is have you ever been dragged out to the sidewalk and beat until you piss blood, which is, I mean, it's a great standalone moment, but it completely pulls you out of that movie.
It's a strange moment in the movie.
Yeah, and because like he's not always at 100, like Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani and Heinz Bennett is in this movie. Like, it always feels a bit incongruous, but like the idea that like someone who understands performance and when to go insane and how to go insane as a director and as a writer, and you can have these insane arguments and these insane over the top screaming matches that you might see Nicolas Cage do, but the writing is so strong that you believe it, and the direction is so frenetic and uncomfortable and sweaty and Soviet that almost is the balancing factor is how drab everything looks. And that sort of evens it. It's amazing. It's an amazing film. It's such control and restraint in a movie that feels like there is no control or restraint.
Before you rate it, what happens at the end?
People know that people are being murdered. The police and the spy organization that Sam Neill worked for, and they track them down to this building. They're running away, trying to run to a place where they're never going to get because they're running up a spiral staircase. It's perfect ratio stuff, and they're never going to get to where they need to go because at the top of it is just going to be closed doors. And the police come in, and the people that he worked with, and the guy in the pink socks, who was referenced early on in the movie as the person that Sam Neill's character has been spying on, but I guess he's also working with the agency that is spying on him.
Some double agent shit going on.
Yeah, and they shoot him all to death. And then because he's dead, no one's looking for Sam Neill 2.0 with the O standing for octopus. So he gets to go off and live a life until the nuclear war happens in...
Yeah, the ending doesn't gel for me.
The end of a relationship is the end of the world. The only way that you can move on from the end of a relationship is that a part of you dies. And you have to accept that and move on, or, drown in the bathtub. Like,
But is that what it's saying? Like, you have to be reborn of octopus in order to continue?
I think the person that you are after a breakup is a different person to who you are before a breakup.
Yeah, but that person also happens to be the slimy protozoa that your partner's been fucking behind your back the whole movie.
Well,
So it reframes the whole octopus thing for me, the ending. That's why I found it difficult. I don't understand who Sam Neill 2.0 is because it changes the whole movie. Okay, what's your rating of the movie Possession?
I'll give it, the maximum 8 tentacles out of 8. Like, it's a perfect movie. It's horrible. It's hard to watch. Yeah. It's challenging, but in a way that feels so satisfying.
No. I totally agree. It's incredibly challenging. I don't find it satisfying.
I feel like I've been through a breakup and have come out the other side by the time that the credits roll. Like, I feel like
I don't need any more of that. It doesn't have the soothing balm. It doesn't have any.
You don't think
soothing balm is the apocalypse?
Yeah, you don't think the sound of the apocalypse happening, the end of the Cold War, you don't think that is a soothing balm?
No.
The erasure of existence of everybody on the earth? I think that would be beautiful.
No. But that's why I admire the movie so much, is it doesn't pander or be like, but don't worry, at the end of it, you might catch someone's eye in a coffee shop and fall in love again. It just says, and the world blows up. It's fucking, it's stone. It puts the cold in Cold War. It puts the cold and war in Cold War, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Cold War of the Heart. I bet a lot of emo albums owe a lot to this fucking movie.
I bet
a lot of emo kids studied this in fucking film school and went on to have shit music careers.
People do love this movie. It is, for a 1981 European film, experimental, surreal movie about relationships. This movie is popular.
Yeah, considering how dumb we are. Like you said, this wouldn't normally even register for a lot of movie viewers over this way.
I'm glad that the way that it made you feel isn't that you just hated it.
No, I think you'd have to be a fucking idiot to think this movie sucks. Do you know what I mean? Or to be like, oh, that wasn't very good. I think that would be pretty blinkered view of the film.
Yeah,
I can see it catching people at the wrong time or in the wrong stage in life, and obviously not resonating with it. But to deny its potential impact, from that perspective, would be pretty criminal, I think. And you're just robbing so many people of such hard work by just ditching it in that way. It's almost too good for the world.
Yeah, I think you were a film studies teacher at a college, but I wasn't. I studied film studies at college, and if I was made to watch this for school, I think I would hate it.
I'd be furious. I am furious. I'm furious that I was made to watch this, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When I was doing film studies at school, I watched Seven. It was one of my main project movies.
Yeah.
And that's an enjoyable movie. I think if you're teaching film, you're not showing this to 16-year-olds, really, I don't think. Because I don't think many of them are ready to talk about it in the way that it needs to be talked about. You show them Seven and it's still lofty. Seven's got some meaty themes for 16-year-olds.
Yeah, I think my overriding memory of film school is that we watched the scene from the remake of The Ring where the horse jumps off the boat. And we watched it
I did too.
So many fucking times. I wonder if that's like a...
I don't think that was on curriculum. Were you doing it at A-level?
Yeah.
There was an enormous number of movies that teachers could pick at that point, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I just remember watching that and being like, what are we trying to say here? And me being like, stop making me watch this fucking scene. It's ruining the movie.
Yeah. One of my favorite memories. So when I actually studied, when I did A-level film, I was doing it at evening classes because I, for some reason, wasn't allowed to do it in my daytime schedule. So I was doing it at evening classes at a different school.
This is the hipster Nosferatu. So if you went out during the day, you would turn to smoke.
Disintegrate.
Yeah.
It was an open access course as well, so it was all ages. And the scene in Clerks where the guy's in the rental store and he picks up a VHS. He goes, "Ooh, Navy SEALs!" That bit, highly quotable, really funny.
Yeah.
Classic snobby movie shit. We were going around the class on our first day of film studies, and we had to say, it was so dumb. We had to list like our favorite genre films in lots of different areas, and then we had to say our favorite movie of all time. We were going around, everyone saying their favorite movie, and the guy right before me went, Navy SEALs, and I collapsed. I could not continue with the class. I had to go outside and compose myself. He literally did the thing from Clerks, unironically. His favorite movie of all time was Navy SEALs, and we became really good friends. He was great, but it's too funny. Can you imagine that's your favorite movie ever?
No.
That'd be sick.
When I worked at the Odeon, you had to have your favorite movie like on your name badge.
Oh my God.
And
what are they asking for, hiring you and asking you to do that?
I mean, I said Evil Dead 2, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's favorite enough and mainstream enough. But there were 4 people that I worked with whose name badges said Armageddon.
Wow. Do you like Armageddon?
No.
No. Do you like Ben Affleck?
No. I like Gone Girl. He's in that.
He's in that. Doesn't he direct that?
No, that's David Fincher.
Oh, yeah, Finchy boy.
Finchy boy. Anyway, do you know what?
Anyway,
Sam?
we are off-piste.
Yeah. I think that if whoever's listening to this now was to attend a film school, what they should watch over and over and over again is themselves going to Instagram and going to Twitter and going to TikTok and following at FT Horror Show so they can engage with the content that is being shared on these platforms.
That's a good idea. And they should, much like the breakdown of a movie in a film studies class, they should then gather all their friends around and tell them about the Final Transmission podcast and how great it is and all the different ways that they can follow it on social media and engage with us as humans in the real world.
Absolutely. And then also rate and review the movie that is this podcast on whatever platform that you're listening or watching or engaging with it on. I don't know. I've lost the metaphor, Sam. Basically, like and review. Make sure you're subscribed. Tell your friends. Follow us on social media. And sorry if you're going through a breakup and you watch this movie.
Yeah, poor timing. There should be a disclaimer at the start of this, really. But no disclaimers in life, kids. Disclaimers are problematic.